Okay, so in this video, we're going to go over a basic introduction to LaTeX and to the Overleaf environment. So this is the page that you'll see when you first enter a new project in Overleaf. There's a few things that I want to point out before we start talking about how to actually type in LaTeX. The first thing is over here on the side, we have this file tree. This is helpful if you want to, for example, insert pictures. You'll upload them here and then you can pull them into your file. This is also helpful if you want to have multiple files in the same project. I like to do that if I have all of my homework assignments for one class. I can put them as separate files and have just the one class file for all of my homework assignments. It makes it a little bit easier to find everything. You can choose to have your homework all be in different files. Either way is fine with me. You might also use this if you are creating a really big document like a book or a thesis where you have lots of different sections. You can create each section or chapter or whatever as a different file and then put all of those files here and have one main file that just pulls them all together. If you want to add a new file to this project, you can just click New File. If you have a lot of files and you want to organize them, you can add a folder. You can upload an existing LaTeX file, or again, if you're adding pictures, this is the way you would do that. The next button I want to point out is this Share button in the corner. The free account with Overleaf allows you to share with one other person, and then it will basically work like a Google Doc where you can both be in at the same time and editing it simultaneously. I've used this with a collaborator on a recent paper, and it worked really well with both of us editing at the same time. I don't know how well it would work with more than 2 people, but it is an option with the paid version and potentially also with the link sharing. So if you're doing a group project, then you might all want to be editing the same file. You can try using link sharing to give everyone access to the same file. At the top here, we have this title, LaTeX Intro. So that's the title of the project that I created. You can rename it by clicking the pencil next to it, and that'll just change the name of the project. All right, and then the big thing that we have been talking around but haven't actually talked about is these 2 windows here. So the thing about LaTeX that makes it kind of challenging to get started is that the file that's actually the output that you're looking for is not the file that you're typing in. You actually have 2 separate windows here. So over here on this side, we have the preview file. So this is where you'll see what the output document actually looks like. Over here, we have where you're actually typing your LaTeX code. So you're going to type in a bunch of code here. You'll click this green recompile button. Overleaf will take that code and compile it into the PDF that you see here. And then once that's ready to go, you can click this download button here and you'll download that PDF. When you're working on your homework or a project, the PDF that you download from that is the thing that you'll turn in on Canvas. So let's get into the actual typing of LaTeX. Everything you see here is what is automatically put in by Overleaf when you create a new project. So I named my project LaTeX Intro, and so it automatically inserted that as the title. In my account, my name is Chloe Warziniak, so it knows that and it'll put that in there. And I created this file in May 2020, so it adds that as the date. You can, of course, edit this as much as you want. For example, I like to have my full name listed on all of my documents, so I'm going to add that in there as my name. And then I'm going to recompile to see that actually show up in the PDF. All right, up here above our title, author, and date, you see we have this document class line. For the most part, you won't have to deal with this. If you are creating a presentation, you can use Beamer, which is basically the LaTeX version of PowerPoint, in which case that will change what's going on here. But that's a whole other can of worms that I'm not going to get into in this video. But if you want to use it to create presentations, I'll post some resources on Canvas for you to play with Beamer. The next thing you see here is this use package. So that one is automatically inserted, so we're going to leave it there, but we definitely want to add some more. Basically, the packages are the boxes of commands that we're allowed to use in our document. And there's tons of them out there. And so the compiler doesn't want to have to pull all of them in to compile every time if we're only using a few. So it waits for us to tell us which packages it's going to pull in, and then it pulls those in, and then we can use those commands in our document. So if I start typing /use, you can see that it has a nice auto-fill capabilities. So if I click tab, it'll add use package. And now I can enter the package that I want to add. So AMS Math is one that I highly recommend for getting started. So I have that one. There's a few others that I recommend, and you can actually put them in the same use package brackets. So I can say use package AMS Simb, I recommend, and then comma AMS fonts. So you could have put these in separate lines, or you can put them in the same brackets. Those three I recommend for every one of your LaTeX files. They basically contain all of the main commands that you're going to need for any kind of math stuff. The other two that I generally recommend are ComMath. I like the way that it formats some of the math things a little bit better. For example, the absolute values that it has, I think it just looks a little bit cleaner, so I like that one. And then the other one is AMS THM, stands for AMS Theorem. That one is helpful as you start writing proofs and theorem statements. You can have it automatically format the titles of your theorems and start your proof lines and end them correctly with the right symbols. So that one's kind of nice to have on hand as well. Okay, so let's get into actually putting things in our document. So you'll see here we have this line begin document and then end document. In between those two lines is our document environment. Everything that's there is what's actually going into the document that you see in your preview window. So far we have the command /make title, which tells the compiler to go pull these title, author, and date that you put up here and format them the way that you see here. We also have an automatic introduction section title. I'm going to just leave that for a second and we'll get back to what that is in just a minute. So I can start typing some words. And if I recompile, it'll show up just like any other word, just like a nice little paragraph there. I can insert lists. So I'm going to use the enumerate environment. And notice that when I hit tab for the autofill for that one, it automatically put the end enumerate in there as well. So this is an environment which needs a begin and an end. And it also put the first /item in there. So what the enumerate environment does is it automatically numbers your list, and you use /item to tell it where the different list pieces are. And it will automatically number them all the way that you, in the order that they appear. So if I recompile here, you'll see that it numbered these 1, 2, 3. And then maybe I say, oh wait, I didn't want 3 to be there. I wanted it to be in between the two. So I wanted the word 3 to be the second thing in my list. If I hit recompile, then now it changes the words to the order that I want, but it keeps the numbering the same. So this is nice to make sure that you don't accidentally number the same thing twice or skip a number. It's really great for that auto numbering. So let's get into talking about some math. How do we actually insert some mathematics? Well, there's two different ways you can do that. One is what we call inline mathematics. Basically, that is math that's in a sentence, in the middle of a sentence. So maybe I want to say, I want to talk about the equation that's involved in the Pythagorean theorem. So I write my sentence, the Pythagorean theorem involves the equation. When I go to start writing my equation, I enter a $sign. Notice that Overleaf enters a second $sign. That will be the end of that inline math environment. I do a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And I'm going to put a period at the end of that. When I recompile, because it's inside those $signs, it knows that that's math going on. So it takes the carets that I did here and it puts them in as exponents. Notice also that the letters that were in there got this sort of italic font. What that's doing is it's telling us that those letters aren't just letters, they're actually variables. And so every time those variables come up later in the document, they still need to be in the math environment to make sure they're formatted as variables. So you can see that when I do that again, then A, B, and C, although there's no other math going on there, I still put them inside the dollar signs so that they get formatted as variables because they are variables. The other kind of formatting for math that you might see is called offset. Basically what that does is it puts the math on its own line, and then depending on how you do it, it will also give it a number that you can reference later. And the way I recommend doing this is through the equation environment. There are other ways to do offset equations, but I like the equation environment. I think it's just the cleanest option. So for example, it's an environment, so I need a begin and an end. And I'm going to type in that same equation that we had, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And I'll go ahead and recompile. All right, so notice that this time it puts it on its own line, it centers it, and it labels it with this number 1 here. That's the first equation that we have, and so it labels it with the number 1. And then if I want to go back later and reference that equation, I can reference it with equation 1. If I don't want to reference this equation later, then maybe I don't want that 1 to show up. I'm not actually using it, so it's just more things on the page that make it look a little messy. And so what we're going to do to get rid of that 1 is put a star here in our equation environment. Now, notice that it's all turning pink. It's not very happy with us. That's because our begin and our end don't match. So I need to make sure I go down and put a star here as well. If I recompile, you'll see that now it's all the same except it got rid of that number 1. All right, and then I promised that I would come back and talk about this section title. So just like with any document, it's sometimes nice to break the document into different sections to make it a little bit clearer what's going on. Notice that it automatically numbers just like our enumerate environment does. So maybe I'll add another section in here and call that math. And since that one is the second time we see the section title coming up, it'll automatically number it with a number 2. And then just like the equation environment, if I want to get rid of the numbers, maybe I like having section titles, but I don't really need them to be numbered, I'm going to add a star. But for the section titles, I add the star at the end of section. And now you see the numbers go away. All right, so let's say I'm done with my document. Then I want to recompile it one more time just to make sure I haven't missed anything. So now this is definitely the most up-to-date version. And then I can hit this download PDF button and it'll generate a PDF for us to download, and you can submit that to Canvas for your assignments. Then the last thing I just want to show you very quickly, if you click on this arrow up here, that's how you get to your main Overleaf page where you'll see all of your projects. So if you want to create a new project, you'll click this button up here. If you go down the side here, you'll see I've created lots of folders for all of my different classes I've taught over the years and other things that I've been working on. And then some of the things aren't in folders, so you'll see uncategorized here. So that's everything you need to know to get started with LaTeX. There's a bunch of other resources posted on Canvas. Now you're ready to go start your first document. Check out the Introduction to LaTeX assignment. And really the best way to learn LaTeX is to practice it. So get started typing all of your mathematics.